Our story begins with a prophet named Jonah. Prophets were people God chose to deliver messages to nations and communities. Jonah already knew God's voice and had heard him speak before. But this time, God's message was different. God told Jonah, "Get up and go to the great city of Nineveh. Their wickedness has come up before me." Nineveh was a huge city filled with violence, idolatry, and cruelty, and God wanted Jonah to warn them that destruction was coming if they didn't change their ways. But Jonah didn't like this assignment at all. Nineveh was Israel's enemy. Jonah believed they didn't deserve mercy or a second chance. He didn't want to go, and he didn't want to deliver God's message. Instead of obeying, Jonah made a decision that changed everything. He ran in the opposite direction. He went down to a port city called Joppa and boarded a ship heading for Tarshish, a place far from Nineveh, far from Israel, and in Jonah's mind, far from God. But no one can run from God. As soon as the ship sailed into the open sea, a violent storm hit the waters. The waves rose high, crashing against the ship. The wind roared, and the sailors grew terrified. These men were experienced. They knew the sea well, but this storm was unlike anything they had ever seen. It was supernatural. They cried out to their gods, frantically throwing cargo into the sea to lighten the ship. While chaos filled the deck, Jonah was below, fast asleep. The captain rushed down, shook Jonah awake, and said, "How can you sleep at a time like this? Pray to your God. Maybe he will save us." The sailors decided to cast lots, a method used to identify who was responsible for the disaster. And the lot fell on Jonah. Immediately, all eyes turned to him. "Who are you?" they demanded. "What have you done?" Jonah confessed everything. "I am a Hebrew," he said, "and I worship the Lord, the God of heaven, who made the sea and the land." And then he admitted the truth. "I am running away from him." The sailors were shocked and terrified. They asked Jonah what they should do, and Jonah gave a hard but honest answer. "Throw me into the sea, and the storm will stop." At first, they refused. They tried to row back to land, fighting the wind with all their strength. But the storm grew worse. Finally, with fear and sadness, they lifted Jonah and threw him into the raging waters. Immediately, the sea became calm. The sailors were so amazed that they began to worship the God of Israel right there on the ship. As Jonah sank beneath the waves, something incredible happened. God had prepared a huge fish, a creature large enough to swallow a man whole, and it swallowed Jonah. Jonah found himself alive, deep inside the belly of this giant fish. Darkness surrounded him. The smell, the pressure, the fear, everything was overwhelming. Jonah had reached the lowest point of his life. He had run, he had disobeyed, and now he was trapped inside a creature at the bottom of the sea. But even there, in the strangest place imaginable, Jonah prayed. Inside the fish, Jonah cried out to God. His prayer wasn't angry or blameful. It was humble and honest. He admitted his mistakes. He acknowledged God's power. He thanked God for saving him from drowning. Jonah described his feelings, the waters closing over him, his life slipping away, the overwhelming sense of being lost. But in that dark place, Jonah declared that salvation comes from the Lord alone. For 3 days and 3 nights, Jonah sat in the belly of the fish, thinking, praying, and surrendering. And God heard him. Then, in an act only God could perform, the big fish swam toward dry land and vomited Jonah out onto the shore. Jonah was alive, redeemed, and given another chance. This was more than rescue. It was transformation. God had shown Jonah that no matter how far someone runs, God's mercy is deeper still. After being rescued and given a second chance, Jonah obeyed God and traveled to the great city of Nineveh. When he entered the city, he was struck by its size and energy. As Jonah walked through the streets, he boldly preached God's message, warning the people that their wickedness had reached God and that judgment was coming if they did not change their ways. To Jonah's surprise, the people of Nineveh listened. From the leaders to the ordinary citizens, they believed the warning and turned away from their evil actions. They humbled themselves, prayed, and sought God's mercy. The city that was once known for violence responded with repentance, showing that hearts can change when God's truth is heard. This moment revealed the depth of God's compassion. God cared not only about Jonah, but also about the people of Nineveh, offering them forgiveness instead of destruction. Jonah's story reminds us that God gives second chances, calls us to obedience, and welcomes anyone who turns back to him with a sincere heart.